Coming up on this episode of Photography Online, we compare two Fuji heavyweights, we make our own camera, and our star student decides she wants to be trained as a photography YouTuber. Welcome to another episode of Photography Online. As always, we never put those annoying adverts in the middle of our show, so we'll be uninterrupted for the next 30 minutes. Before that though, here is a quick photography question for you. What is the most viewed photograph in history? Is it A, Steve McCurry's Afghan girl, B, the Windows XP wallpaper, C, Queen Elizabeth's postage stamp portrait, or D, the blue marble? We'll give you the answer later on in the show. So, Fuji have two very similar medium format cameras on the market, but there's a big difference in price. We thought we'd see if there was also a big difference in performance.
If you are one of those people who think size matters and full frame simply isn't big enough, then you'll need to go up to the next level, medium format.
There are no set dimensions for medium format, so generally anything larger than full frame is considered medium format. Fujifilm is one of the few manufacturers that offer medium format digital cameras. Even though their sensors aren't as large as the offerings from other manufacturers like Phase One and Hasselblad, they do have a couple of options at a fraction of the price of these other brands.
The cheapest is the GFX 50S2, which, as the name suggests, is a 50 megapixel camera using a sensor which has a total area 66% bigger than full frame. This means that when compared to a full frame camera with the same resolution, the pixels are further apart and therefore capture more light, which in turn helps with dynamic range and high ISO performance. The cost of the GFX 50S2 here in the UK is around £3,500, which is cheaper than many top-end full-frame cameras, so it's an absolute bargain in my book.
If you want to rid yourself of more money, however, £2,000 to be precise, Fuji has the answer.
The GFX 100S, which, as you've guessed it, is a 100 megapixel camera. It's virtually identical in every single way to the GFX 52, with the only major difference being the fact that it has exactly double the resolution, yet at less than double the price.
Thanks to Ford's Photographic, I've had the opportunity to use both of these cameras for the past 3 weeks to see whether the extra 50 megapixels is really worth the extra price.
Putting the differences aside, one thing I really enjoyed about using both cameras is the controls are so intuitive. I love the aperture ring being a mechanical adjustment on many of the lenses. This is something Fuji does so well, keeping the operation of its cameras very traditional. All the other buttons, dials and displays can be easily configured to your own preferences, meaning that you can set everything up so that it feels intuitive in your hands. The menu system is well laid out and easy to navigate.
Now both of these cameras use dual SD card slots, which in my opinion is great. When you've gone out and spent all of your hard-earned money on one of these bodies, at least you don't have to go and buy a weird and expensive card that so many cameras seem to force you to do.
One thing I found a little frustrating is that both cameras can be a little slow to show the histogram. This can take a couple of seconds to appear, which might not sound like a big deal.
But if you are shooting some fleeting light or a moving subject and need to quickly check your exposure, this could be the difference between getting the shot or missing the moment.
As a landscape shooter, I've only been using these cameras in landscape environments and have been very impressed with the performance of both.
But let's address the key question. What difference is there in terms of image quality between these two medium format heavyweights? For an extra £2,000 on top of the 50 megapixel version, you'll be doubling your resolution to 100 megapixels. By my calculations, that works out to an extra 25,000 pixels for every extra pound that you spend. I don't know about you, but that seems like a pretty good deal to me.
Numbers are one thing, But how do they translate to image quality? I mean, what difference does it make, using the same lens on what is essentially the same camera, shooting the same subject?
Luckily, I can answer this important question with a couple of examples.
These two images are all but identical, except one was taken on the GFX 50S2 and the other was taken on the GFX 100S. At this resolution, there's no way you can tell which is which. So if you are only ever going to look at your photos at smaller enlargements, then there is little need to go for the more expensive body. But as we zoom in, we can start to tell which is which. The 100 megapixel version, unsurprisingly, packs noticeably more detail into the file. The sensor on the GFX 100S is also backlit, which means it focuses more accurately, especially on moving subjects and in low light situations. But for landscapes, this is not an issue, so this is something in which I haven't found any benefit.
I guess it ultimately comes down to how big you want your enlargement. If size matters and you've got the extra money at your disposal, then the 100S is definitely a good way to spend it. But if you're only ever planning on looking at your images on a 5K monitor or printing them A2 or smaller, in my opinion, you'd be better off at buying the cheaper body and using the extra savings on more lenses.
Okay, cut.
You don't think Fords would notice if I only send one of these back? I mean, they don't need two, do they?
I don't know about you, but I would be perfectly happy with either of those cameras. Thank you to Fords Photographic for lending us that one camera. Now, with summer on the way, you might be thinking of expanding your wardrobe with a couple of new t-shirts, or maybe you just want to support the show. Why not purchase one of our Photography Online t-shirts? Available in a wide range of sizes and a couple of different designs. Help spread the word, or at least our logo, by proudly wearing one of these on your back. To see all the options, visit our online shop at this address, or simply use the link in the video description. Okay, so as I mentioned at the start of the show, today, at least the day we release this episode, is Worldwide Pinhole Day. Pinhole photography is about as basic as it gets. No lens, no focusing, and certainly no batteries, but the results can be extremely arty and rewarding. It's something which anybody can do simply by using everyday household items, but it can be a bit daunting if you don't know much about it. Well, that's all about to change, as myself and Marcus, both complete pinhole novices, jumped in at the deep end. To make your own pinhole camera, you'll need a few things, but most of these you should have lying around the house. For the camera body itself, you can use any light, tight container such as a coffee tin or a cardboard box. The distance from the pinhole to where the film will be will dictate your magnification, so if you want to make something wide angle, choose something small such as this coffee tin, whereas a long box like this will provide a much larger magnification, similar to a telephoto lens. The aperture of a pinhole camera is controlled by the size of the pinhole. The larger this is, the more light it will let through, but the less defined the image will appear. A pinhole has no depth of field and will never be truly sharp, as the image is made up of millions of fuzzy circles. The smaller the pinhole though, the smaller these circles are, making the photo appear sharper. This is only true to a point though. Just like with any conventional lens, if you make the opening too small, then diffraction will start to degrade the image. A good starting point would be 1/4 to 0.5 millimeter, but ultimately it depends on the size of your camera. Exposures with pinhole cameras are measured in seconds, minutes, and sometimes hours, so this is easily done manually with a stopwatch. One last thing before we start making stuff, the surface that you put your pinhole into has to be super thin. You can't drill a small hole through a thick surface, as you'll restrict the light path through the hole to a very narrow angle, which wouldn't cover much of the film. Something like aluminium foil is a really good material, but anything super thin and opaque will be fine. Okay, let's start with our coffee tin, but the other two are essentially the same. All we need to do is drill a 5 to 10 millimeter hole in the side of each. Now make a hole in a small piece of foil using a small pin. Make sure you can see light coming through the hole from lots of different angles. Then tape the foil over the drilled hole using some sticky tape. Now we just need to make a shutter. That's done. Just make sure that it's not too sticky and doesn't tear the foil. This can be done by sticking it to clothing prior to putting it in place. You want it to be sticky enough to stay in place but be easily removed. It's important that the inside of whatever container you are using is matte black. This can be done by cutting cards to the right dimensions or using spray paint. It really doesn't matter as long as it doesn't reflect any light. Now all that's left is to put the film inside. Now this is probably something that you won't have lying around at home, so you will need to buy this. We're using this. It's Harman Direct Positive paper, which has an ISO of 1 and produces a black and white photo straight out of the camera. You can buy this from ilfordphoto.com or many other shops online. You can of course use standard photographic film to produce a negative which you then print onto photo paper, but this is an extra step, so our method is a bit more convenient. You'll need to load your film or paper in total darkness or in a changing bag, but unless you shoot film on a regular basis you probably won't have one of those, so a bathroom at night with no lights on and the doors closed should be okay. Basically, if you can see anything, then it's not dark enough. Simply tape the film in place, obviously emulsion side towards the hole so that it's curved against the inside of the tin or the box, with the centre of the film being directly opposite the pinhole. You might want to mark this position so you can identify it in the dark. Put the lid back on and, if necessary, tape it up to prevent any light leaks. The final thing that we need to do is to work out the effective apertures of each camera to allow us to calculate their exposures. This involves doing some maths, but fear not, it's pretty basic stuff. However, I will leave this to Marcus to explain.
So welcome to class. To find out the F number of a pinhole camera, it's very simple. All you need to do is measure the distance between the pinhole and where the film is and divide it by the diameter of the pinhole. So for example, our big camera here, the length is 550. That's the distance between the pinhole and where the film is. And the pinhole is around 1 millimeter. So if we divide 550 by 1, we get 550. It's all basic stuff. If we take our coffee tin, measure that, it's 90 millimeters from side to side, the difference between where our pinhole is and our film is. The pinhole on this is slightly smaller, it's only about half a millimeter. So if we divide 90 by 0.5, we get 180. So we've rated this at F180. Once you know the F number of your camera, we can use this to calculate our exposure. All we need to do is take a digital camera, set the ISO to the same speed as the film that we've got loaded in our pinhole camera. But if this is not possible, then just use ISO 100. Set the aperture to F22. Now take a photo of the same subject in the same light that we intend on shooting with our pinhole camera. Let's say, for argument's sake, that the camera, the digital camera, gives us an exposure time of 1/30th of a second. We now have to convert that from F22 to F80 in the case of this camera here. Now that's easily done. All we need to do is count how many times we have to double 22 to get to this number or close to it. So 44 would be doubling once, 88 would be doubling twice, and then 176, which is very close to 180, would be doubling 3 times. We now double this again to 6 for reasons which we don't need to go into here because it gets too complicated. So we need to increase our exposure by 6 stops, which is 1/30th would be, 1 stop would be 1/15th, 2 stops would be 1/8th, 3 stops would be 1/4, then we get to half a second, 1 second, 2 seconds. So our exposure, if we were using ISO 100 film in here, would be 2 seconds, and that would give us the correct exposure F180. However, there's a problem because we're not using ISO 100 in here, we're using ISO 1. So we now have to add extra stops to convert ISO 100 down to 1. So we go the other way. So 1 stop difference would be ISO 50, then we go 25, 12, 6, 3, 1.5 is close enough to 1. So we have to add another 6 stops to our 2 seconds. So let's count it out. 4, 8, 15, 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes. So our exposure on this camera at F180 with ISO 1 film inside is a 2-minute exposure. It's exactly the same as 1/30th of a second on our digital camera at f/22 and ISO 100. It's important to try and keep our exposures longer than 2 seconds, because if it's any faster than this, you might find it difficult to pull that tape off and replace it in enough time.
So we've got our cameras, now all we need to do is find some suitable subjects. With our box design, we can make a viewfinder to help us frame our image. Simply cut a square card frame the same size as your film area and place it at the front of the box. Placing an open eye at the other end of the box, aligned with the centre of the frame, this will give you an approximate idea of what will be included in your photo. But with our circular canned version, it's more of a case of try it and see, but that's all part of the fun. Don't be disappointed if your first results come out a little too bright or too dark. There's a lot of guesswork when it comes to pinhole photography, so trial and error is part of the game. Just make adjustments accordingly, updating the F number on the camera to give you a more accurate starting point for the next time. Here's photos we've taken over the past few days with the 3 cameras we made. We try to bring you a wide range of photography methods and topics, so even if you are an out-and-out digital shooter, hopefully you still enjoy seeing what else is possible in the world of photography. Making your own camera can be great fun and rewarding, so give it a try. Okay, so we have had a lot of messages and comments over the past few months from people complaining that they're subscribed to the YouTube channel but never get notified when we release new shows. This is sadly out of our control, as YouTube doesn't think it's very important to let you know when your favourite shows are released. However, we always send out our own independent newsletter just before we release every show. So if you're one of those people that likes to be notified of new photography online content, then simply go to mc2photography.com and sign up for our newsletter, or check out the relevant link below. As well as letting you know what's on each new show, we also announce new trips along with any last minute availability. It's free and you can unsubscribe at any time, so you've got nothing to lose. Now, regular viewers will be familiar with our star student Shiana, who was only 7 years old when she started on her journey to learn photography. She is growing up fast, and many of you have been asking how she's getting on and when she'll be back. So for those of you who watch a lot of photography channels, this is for you.
So you spent the last year learning all about this camera, how to zoom and compose. You learned how to do the aperture and control depth of field. You learned exposure, haven't you? And do you know how to turn it on and off?
Yeah.
That's important. And you know how to change lenses?
Yeah.
So you're pretty advanced now. So I was just wondering, is there anything else that you want me to teach you about photography?
I want to be a photography YouTuber.
A photography YouTuber?
Yeah.
That's on a whole different level. Have you any idea how difficult that is?
No.
Well, let me tell you right now, there's a few key things that you need to be able to do in order to even make it to the very bare minimum of photography YouTubers. For example, can you walk in slow motion?
Maybe.
Well, we'll find out soon. Can you walk through a gate?
Yes.
Because all photography YouTubers have to go through a gate.
Why do they go through a gate?
I've no idea, but it's just something that has to be done, apparently. Can you boil water?
What on earth has boiling water got to do with photography?
I don't know, but the YouTube photography gods have decided that in order to be a photography YouTuber, you have to, on a regular basis, show boiling water and making a cup of tea or coffee. Are you able to lie about the light?
No.
Then you're never going to make it as a photography YouTuber. Are you able to lie about the location that you're in?
Yes.
Well, go on then, show me.
We are in the beach.
No, not quite like that. What I'm thinking of is saying things like, making out that you're in a dangerous location when you're not, or saying that a location is the best location you've ever been to, when clearly it's not, it's just average. You're just trying to hype the video, get the audience excited about it. It never works, but this is what you have to try and do.
Okay.
Okay, now, this is a very important one. Can you pimp a photo?
What does pimp mean?
It means, can you flower it up to be something that it's not? So if you take an average photo, just a normal photo, nothing special, okay, can you make it look good?
Yes.
And then finally, can you hype the video with clickbait?
Maybe.
Show me a surprised face. Perfect, you've got it. Right, come on, let's start your academy.
Okay.
Okay, that's perfect. So I want you to, you've tick number 1, you've graduated from that one, walking in slow motion. So what's the next one on the list?
Walk through gate.
Right, now this is very difficult, okay, so you've got to be ready for this one.
Okay.
There's a gate over here, let's go and see how good you are. And action. Okay, come back here for a debrief. You were a little bit hesitant with doing the gate back up, weren't you?
Yeah.
It wasn't very smooth. So if you were going to give yourself a score out of 10, what would you say?
3.
3 out of 10?
Yeah.
Do you want to try again then?
Yeah.
Because I don't think that you're going to graduate on a 3 out of 10, are you?
Yeah.
Okay, right, give it another go then.
Can we leave the gate not with the lock?
No, you can't be cheating. A photography YouTuber will have the gate closed to start with, and they'll have it closed when they finish, and they'll go through it like a breeze, okay?
I don't go
There's
through
no
it.
shortcuts when it comes to being a photography YouTuber. Right, okay, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, power pose, power stance. Ready?
Yeah.
And action. Whoa, much better. How many out of 10?
8.
I think 10. I think you nailed it.
I struggled. The gate went back a bit, so I had to pull
No.
it. No.
Honestly, you can't be analysing it that closely. That was 10 out of 10. So you come here
Okay.
and let's tick this one off. Okay? So we'll tick this one off. And what's the next one?
Boil water.
Okay, so look, this is a special water boiling machine. Okay, you need to have this as a YouTuber, photography YouTuber. So pour the water inside there. I'll show you how to do it. But because
All
this,
of it?
not all of it, but that'll do. There, enough to make a cup of tea. Okay, right. And now what we're going to do is I'm going to do this because this is gas and fire. And how old are you?
9.
Right, you're not old enough to do this yet, are you?
Soon turning 10.
All right. Right, so look, we're going to turn the gas on. Okay, we're off. See, can you see the gas underneath?
Yeah.
After about 1 minute, that will be boiling.
Like.
Yeah, and you always have to do it in the back of a car or like a camper like this. I don't know why, but they all do it. So if you want to be up there with the best, you've got to join them.
Okay.
Okay, so can you see it boiling now?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's good. So you get your checklist, and then we can tick that one off the list because now you know how to boil water.
Okay.
And what's the next one on the list?
Lie about the light.
Okay, action.
As you can see, this light is amazing. It's exactly what I wanted, so I'm going to take a photo but quickly before it disappears.
Perfect. And action.
And that's how you climb a mountain. It took me 4 hours to get here. Had to swim across the sea and climb here, but the view was worth it.
And cut. Perfect.
Okay.
Really good. Great lying there.
Whoa.
Cross that one off. That's it. And then what's the next one?
It's pimp the photo.
Okay, right, I need to go back to the studio for this.
So Daddy, how do you pimp a photo?
Oh, it's easy. Just get a really average photo, put a border around it and some epic music underneath it. Job done.
Like this?
That's perfect. You passed that test. So we're now on to the final stage, okay, of how to become a photography YouTuber. And it's a very important stage and it's called clickbait nonsense.
What's that?
Well, it's when you create a very dramatic thumbnail, which is like the front cover to a video, to encourage people to watch it, okay? But the thumbnail has to be way, way more dramatic than the content of the video.
I've got some to show you, Daddy.
Okay, well that's a really good one. That's perfect. Oh yeah, excellent. Oh, fantastic. You've passed. You've got all the skills that you need now to become a photography YouTuber. Do you want a certificate?
Yeah.
Armed with those 7 skills, I know she's bound to be successful. Okay, so at the start of the show, I asked, what is the most viewed photograph in history? Was it A, Steve McCurry's Afghan Girl, B, the Windows XP wallpaper, C, Queen Elizabeth's postage stamp portrait, or D, the blue marble? The answer was B, the Windows XP wallpaper, shot by Charles O'Rear and estimated to have been seen by billions of people. That's even more people than watch this show. So sadly we are out of time again, but don't go just yet because I want to tell you about our 90-minute live show that we broadcast on the 3rd Sunday of every month. We delve deeper into some of the topics we've covered in our most recent shows, plus we have guest photographers popping in. Our next PO live show, we'll have one of the team out on location doing a live landscape shoot. This is available to supporters on our PO Live level or above, so if you want to get an extra 90-ish minutes of photography online every month, simply press the join button or go to the relevant link below. If you can't join us for the live show, then I'll be back in just 2 weeks' time when I'll be spending the day in Blackpool. Until then, take good care, but most of all, take good photos.
For an extra £50,000 on top of the 50,000 pounds, that would be a lot.
This is quite easy. Just double 22 and we get 44, double it again, we get 88, double it again, we get 176. Okay, on to the next level, which is lie about the land, sorry.
The location.
Set the aperture to f22. Bruce Forsyth's back.
La 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 la. La la la.
Until then, take good care, but most of all, take good photos. There's a midgie on my nose.